Hello YouTube, it's Flower Tinted Glasses, and today I'm here with a Warthog guide. And to start things off, I'm going to be trying to teach you guys about how to play Anders. Now this has been inspired a bit because I watched a Turnip kind of Ultimate Beginner's Guide tutorial, and I wanted to help people out with their Warthog gameplay. Now to start things off, I'm going to be showing you guys my favorite way to play Professor Anders. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to queue up your first supply pad, your first Warthog, and you're going to go start collecting money. The second thing you're going to want to do is... Oh, don't know what that is. Sorry, I'm voicing over this. I got some footage, and I'm voicing over it now. But the gist of today's guide is what to do in the early game as Professor Anders. So, first thing you're going to do, get your first hog queued, get your first supply pad up, get your second reactor, and we're going to be going reactor second, quick gunner, quick first pad upgrade. Now, the reason I paused this video was to collect my thoughts in the moment. I was commentating, but I lost the audio. Anyways, the reason we're going to do this is because it allows you to get your first expansion as quick as possible while also boosting your economy in the early game. Anders is the quickest to get Goss Hogs, but she has the worst economy of the three UNSC leaders. Now, one thing that a lot of you new players need to understand is you need to be playing greedy. So what do I mean by that? You need to be going for builds that capitalize on your opponents not doing anything in the early game, because you need to be able to carry these games. You know, in these games that you're playing on Halo Wars Definitive Edition, not everybody's going to be coordinated. Not everybody's going to be attacking you. You need to be able to carry your team if this goes late. So as this reactor is going up, what you're going to notice is I'm always queuing another Warthog. But as that reactor finishes, the first thing you're going to want to do on Anders, in my opinion, is upgrade your heavy pad. You're going to get one heavy pad for the majority of the early game. You're not going to upgrade all of them because you can't afford it. And you're going to queue your gunner. On good supply, you're going to have 4 Warthogs at this point. On bad supply, you're only going to be able to afford 3 more than likely in order to have your heavy supply pad on time. So understand that. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to want to take 3 hogs at a time and clear your base. I see so many people clicking all units and going to clear their expo, and they're losing HP to those rebels. You cannot afford your Warthogs to get damaged in the early game, because then when you take your first Warthog fight against your opponent's Warthogs, their Warthogs will be full health, while yours are in the freaking red bar, man. You cannot afford to lose Warthog HP in the early. So the way you're going to do this is you're going to hug that corner of that base, and you're going to drive away from the rebels like you see me doing in the footage. Just keep driving away from the rebels and learn your shortcuts. Down on your D-pad will switch you between your armies. Get used to clicking down on the D-pad. Keep building on your base. Keep queuing more Warthogs. Use 3 of them to get your expo and put your other Warthog rallies somewhere safe. Also, very important, I see a lot of you guys spamming all units, all units. Start getting to learn your right bumper, your local units tab, and more importantly, hold down A to get the painter circle and get used to painting your units. Get used to individually clicking on your units and micromanaging them. If one of your hogs is getting shot, click that Warthog and drive it away. If you want to just focus on the Warthogs you're using to do a task, paint over them. Stop clicking all units. You're going to be sacrificing your numbers. Something cool I just noticed watching this back too is something you guys need to be ready for. I queued a heavy supply pad and realized I didn't have enough money to queue my next Warthog. So I canceled my heavy supply pad to queue the next Warthog, because the next Warthog is more important than the heavy supply pad. The little bit of extra money you would have gotten from a quicker pad doesn't outweigh the bigger army you would get from a quicker Warthog. So make sure you're getting those Warthog numbers constantly building. And don't stop building a Warthog because you're waiting on your next thing unless you're sitting on 12 to 15. If you're at less than 12 to 15 Warthogs, you cannot be delaying your Warthogs. Now this version of going Goss is the extreme greedy version. So what you're about to see me do here is I never upgrade my Anders main base in the greed version. We're just going to immediately buy our second base, and we're going to keep queuing hogs when we can. And we're going to take our 3 Warthogs like we like to do, because 3 is the best to micromanage for this. And you're going to use those 3 hogs to hug the corner of your next base. You have to clear out all these bases so you're ready to buy them. You don't want to be getting into fights later and having to come back and ignore fights just to be clearing rebel bases. Get this done while the action is low. And always be paying attention to your Warthogs. Don't let the health drop. And one thing you're going to notice I do here is I'm going to queue a supply pad on my expansion, not a reactor right away. Why am I going to do that? Well, it's safe practice. If you go for a reactor first and a cutter comes and max that base, you pretty much instantly lose the match because you lose all of the money from the base and the money from the reactor, whether or not it's built. So a good practice is to get a supply pad on that base, and if that supply pad goes up, you know you're pretty safe and that your opponents probably aren't looking to be aggressive. And as you see here, I path my 5 hogs that aren't clearing the base kind of to the right. You're kind of looking to guard your base from potential pushes, because cutter and forge players are likely to push you. That has a side effect though of if you send your 5 hogs like that to the right and they do actually push it, you're likely to lose all 5 of those hogs if you're not paying very close attention. So always just be like thinking, are they going to push here? And if they are, be ready for a fight. If they're not, still be ready for the fight, because why not? What else are you doing? Are you twiddling your thumbs? Alright, now that you've got the pad down, you've got tons of hogs, you feel like you're safe, you're going to be getting your reactor second on that base, and you're going to be trying to get your Gauss. Now here's where you can kind of slow down your Warthog production a little bit, although on Anders, you really don't have to, especially if you upgraded your pads on your main base. Anders has the luxury of getting really set up for a nice mid to late game Gauss, and you want to triple base on Anders really badly. So with your reactor up, you're going to queue your upgrade always on your main base, because if your side base dies, you can't afford to not be getting your upgrades. You're going to use your second base to keep producing hogs throughout this process. Then you're going to save up for your third reactor, and you're going to put it also on the second base for the ultimate greed build. Now this is very dangerous because your opponents can push this base and you're going to be essentially reset to the Stone Age. That's why this is the very greedy version of the build. You only do this against players you think you're going to get away with it. For example, if you have very aggressive teammates that are going to buy you time, then you can do this in order to get the biggest payoff for all of your teammates' aggression. The main reason I started with this in this Warthog guide is because to me, this is the build I want my teammate going if I am buying them time. If they don't go this build, I always feel terrible because I bought them all this time just for them not to capitalize on it. This build is the best kind of like Gauss build order to fully capitalize on greed. So if I buy you tons of time, I want my Gauss player doing this. Now the next thing I'm going to say is pretty much common knowledge, but make sure that when you've queued up your Gauss upgrade, you go back, you kill your third reactor, you put up a field armory, then from there, with the 2 reactor tech levels, you're going to queue your reserves upgrade, then you're going to delete your second reactor and go down to 1 tech level because that's all you need for Anders. You're going to be on reserves, Gauss hogs, triple pumping, and you're going to use the 3 bases to spend all your money on more and more Warthogs and just beat them with numbers. Next up, I believe I went over a bit of Forge. Now the thing about UNSC is you can go Gauss hogs on all 3 of them, and it's probably the play to do so in most of your games. So I'm going to be showing you a little bit of the advantages of the other leaders, because basically Anders is the queen of Gauss hogs, but the other leaders do have some tricks that can give you the edge if you know what to do. So to me, Sergeant Forge is a bit of a nutcase build. So for me, I like to go reactor 4th or 5th. So what you're going to do for this build is you're going to be going mass gunnerless hog. If your opponent knows about this, they could try to hog push you early. So make sure you just keep your Warthogs alive and hidden. But what you're going to do is you're just going to keep building heavy supply pads and keep queuing Warthogs. This is going to set you up for a massive economy and allow you to aggressively push without ever putting your economy at risk. And you can go single base Gauss, meaning you get all 3 reactors on your main base. There are a few advantages of this playstyle. The main one being is if you're doing this correctly, you should never miss a Warthog queue, meaning you should always have Warthog numbers advantage on defense. That is a huge deal for preventing enemy Warthog pushes, and it's also a huge deal for massing Warthogs. One thing you're going to notice when you're a Forge going Gauss against, let's say, a Cutter going Gauss, is you're always going to have more money than the Cutter if you're doing this build. You might have the same amount of Warthogs, but you should have way more money than the Cutter. And same thing against Anders. You're going to have way more money against the Anders, and you're going to have way more hogs. Now, she's going to catch up in money, but she usually isn't going to catch up in hogs. And that's very important here because when you're thinking of going Warthogs, you got to think, how do I gain an edge against an Anders? So in this, I'm kind of showcasing reactor 5th here. And if you'll notice, like, I place my Warthogs just hiding around my teammates' turrets. In your other games, your teammates won't have turrets, but you can hide around your teammates' Warthogs. The point is, keep your Warthogs safe. Keep them somewhere to where they're not going to get exploited for having such a late gunner. And you're just going to see, you're going to be so rich with money. The downside to this is you can't expo early, expand, but you can do so many other things with this. Just by having the sheer amount of Warthog numbers you have, like, it'll be crazy. So if you notice here, I'm going to cancel my Warthog to queue my gunner because I thought I would be able to get 8, but you get about 7 Warthogs doing this.
All units.
7 Warthogs when your cutter is on 7 Warthogs but no upgraded pads, or the Anders is on like 5 Warthogs with upgraded pads, is a huge advantage that you shouldn't squander. So here I'm being kind of greedy and I'm traveling to the right alley even though I don't have gunner done. You can do this if you're confident where your opponents are. This is an AI game, so I know there's no opponents over there. But you can position for this because you're positioning for a push with Forge. If you try to expand right now, your expansion will be slow. Now, if you notice here, I queue an 8th hog, which is actually a mistake. You should be queuing your Fortress off of the back of these 7, which is, I went back and did it now. I'm going to clear out these rebels so I can get the extra money. And what I'm doing right now is I'm preparing for a carpet bomb push. If you carpet bomb your opponent's expansion, you can almost guarantee a kill on it. But one thing I want you to understand in your mind is if you go up there expecting to kill the base and there is resistance, you're going to lose. If there are Warthogs, kill Warthogs first. Do not queue your second reactor at home until you know you don't need your carpet bomb. Now, I would go up here and let's say the base is just finished and I know I'm going to kill it really quickly. I'm going to carpet bomb it, I'm going to gunner it down, and I'm going to drive away. If I see Warthogs, I'm going to ram the Warthogs. Specifically, I'm going to grab 3 of my hogs at a time and ram so I can ram 2 hogs with the other 3. I can ram 3 hogs into one, then 3 hogs into the other. And that should give you a Warthog lead if they're not ramming you back. You should instant win the fight. And you'll just be so ahead off of this push that you can go back now and claim your expo late. And the main thing is that you're actually hoping that there's Warthogs there. Because more important than killing that base is getting the Warthog lead. What does that mean? It means you have more Warthogs on the map than your opponent. And then here in this next part, I believe I demonstrate what essentially happens when you carpet bomb. Do you see how red bar that base is? That was showing you what your carpet bomb looks like if there's not a pad on it. If there is a pad on it, that base would have lived with like a quarter of its health. And the reason that I'm showing you this footage is I was trying to demonstrate that you don't want to carpet bomb immediately. If you carpet bomb that base and it lives, you pretty much lose the match. So what is your brain thinking if you carpet bomb it? Oh, I have to full commit to this base with my Warthogs. You cannot do that. You want to drive up to the base, you want to shoot the base with your Warthogs, and if you get the base to like 3/4 of its health bar, then you can drop a carpet bomb. If you show up to the base and there is resistance, enemy Warthogs, you have to fight the Warthogs. If you're shooting at a base and the Warthogs are shooting at your Warthogs, you are going to lose the game. I see so many players that learn about aggression. They push up, they're shooting the base, they carpet bomb. A, they don't kill it, or B, they lose all their Warthogs. If you kill the base but you lose 7 Warthogs, guess what? You still lose the game. GG. Now the last leader I'm going to be showing you is Captain Cutter. I generally think he's the weakest for Warthogs just because he doesn't have an economy that's really that great, and he doesn't beat Anders in the early game either. But where Cutter really shines is he can cheese Covenant bases with his Mac Blast, and more importantly, he can keep the opponents off of their Expo with his Mac Blast, and that kind of aggression gets rewarded heavily. So what I'm going to recommend for you Cutter players out there is I'm going to go Reactor 3rd just because you're not going to beat Anders to Reactor 2nd, and you're going to undercut your economy pretty heavily. So you're either going to lose a Warthog, which you don't want to do, you don't want to lose numbers, or you're just going to be on a worse economy than the Anders overall for no real reason. So if you're not going to be upgrading your pads early anyway, there's really no reason not to just go 2 supply pads and then your reactor for gunner. You're going to make more money this way in the early game, which is where you need the money. So go ahead and do Reactor 3rd. Now, just know that if an Anders wants to be cheeky, they can push up reactor second gunner, and they can fight your gunnerless hogs. So you want to keep your hogs hidden until your gunner is almost finished in the majority of cases, unless you've already seen where the Anders hogs are. Just something to keep in mind in the back of your head. That concept might be a little bit too hard to understand when you're first getting into Warthogs. For now, just know you're going reactor third, because you're not planning on upgrading your supply pads. That is the reason why. Alright, and one thing I'm going to clarify right now for you players out there, as your reactor comes up, never cancel your next Warthog to get your gunner, especially if it's like a quarter built or halfway built, because then you're just reducing your Warthog volume, you know, just the total number of Warthogs, for no real reason, because you're like anxious or bored of waiting for your gunner. Just have a little bit of patience, especially if you're not an Anders, and if you don't have patience, just play the Anders and go reactor second. But for the rest of us, just sit on your mass gunnerless hogs, just keep them safe, keep them hidden. And on cutter, you just want to make sure you're constantly queuing pads, constantly building your next Warthog. And you're going to take your expo as soon as your gunner is up, kind of like an Anders would, but just a little bit later. Now, I'm going to be showing you that I queued a pad and I queued my next Warthog over focusing on the micro. And I'm sending 3 Warthogs to start clearing my expo, and I'm going to send 2 Warthogs to start clearing in the alleyway that I want to push. I tend to expo as cutter where the Anders would expo if I know where the Anders is expoing. Now, why am I doing that? I think that cutter needs to be the aggressor. So if you're playing cutter, you need to be ready for a Warthog alley push. What does that mean? It means you're going to push up the alley onto the Anders expo, and you're going to try to mac the base to death. So here I'm kind of showing you how I set up for that. I have 3 Warthogs clearing my own expo. I have 2 Warthogs clearing the alley rebels so I can get extra money. And I need to constantly be paying attention to where my Warthogs are and if they're losing health, because I can't afford to lose any Warthog health if I plan on being the aggressor. So make sure when you're clearing the expo and you're clearing the rebels, you don't take any RPGs. You constantly micro your little Warthogs away, and don't click all units unless you're trying to group your hogs. What you're going to see me do here is I kind of like am an idiot and I start clearing my supplies, but I'm actually going to place a rally flag where my expo is, and the rest of my hogs I'm going to push up. Now they're kind of separated right there in the stock footage. Don't separate your army, make sure it's all together so that way when you're fighting, all of the damage is happening at once. If your army's split up, that's how you're going to lose fights. And don't always ram in the Warthog fights. Now, when you walk up to the base, if there's only 1 pad built, you're going to mac it immediately and kill it. You cannot let the Anders get the base, and if you kill the base immediately, it's going to allow you to fight the Anders Warthogs, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to look for them. You're looking for the Anders Warthogs, you're looking for a Warthog ram, you're just trying to nip the Anders in the bud, you're trying to get a decisive victory early, you're just looking for 3 or 4 Warthog kills, and then you're going to drive away. The reason you have to do this is because if you don't, the Anders will just beat you in the Warthogs fight. She has a cryo bomb to her advantage. She has cheaper Gauss upgrades. She gets Gauss faster than you. So what do you have to do? You have to show off your early game economy, your early game hog numbers, and punish the Anders' greed. I do have to mention here, though, that a good Anders might see this play coming, so you have to be ready for a real fight when you go. Be ready to play dirty, be ready to ram, be ready to mac, be ready to not mac if there's too much stuff on there. Just, you have to win that Warthog fight and then get your own bases up. Once your own bases are up, you can pretty comfortably go Gauss. You can start upgrading your pads if you want, because the whole goal is with that Warthog lead, you can then start just going a base lead. Cutter's main advantage in the mid to late game is with all of your stations compared to the Anders, I forget what the tier 1 base is, but you know what I'm trying to say. Cutter can base trade incredibly effectively, whereas the Anders pretty much has to pick a fight with you, and you can just sort of, you can set up people into a base trade situation and win in that way, and Anders will lose. So that's the advantage you have on Cutter. It kind of forces you into funny play styles, so just note you're probably the weakest UNSC. You're gonna have to play dirty. You cannot play a standard game on Cutter most of the time if your opponents are equal to higher skill than you. Now in this last bit of footage, I'm going to show you what to do on Anders if you're going to be a little bit less greedy. Now the reason you need to know about this is if you're playing against double covenant, you can't really afford to be greedy. So you need to know what to do if you're kind of expected to contribute earlier in the game. You're not just expected to carry it. So this is kind of what I'm going to show you, and that's going to be Reactor Third Anders. I think Reactor Third Anders is completely fine. You don't get to expo quite as fast, but if you're going single base Gauss, you don't really need to expo quite as fast. And the main reason you go Reactor Third in the early is because you don't need the gunner early to collect supplies. And the extra mining time you get from this is actually going to net you more early game money than if you got the pad reactor and then upgraded it. But the lost expansion time is a downside for sure. But the little bit of extra money will help you in the early game to help you save up to D-bomb covenants, to cryo other Warthogs. So this is the more safe build, I would say, the less greedy version of Anders. I rarely play this version of Anders because, in my opinion, there's not a lot that can punish a greedy Anders. And if they are punishing it, you'll learn to adapt and you can try this build in the second game. It's mostly your gameplay that's going to help you, though, not your build order. But I think the build order will kind of set a foundation for what to do as a newer player getting into high-level Warthog micro. So what you'll notice is I'm going to queue my heavy pad because I still have a Warthog building. Never cancel your Warthog, let it finish building. But that means since you're not using the money on the gunner yet anyway, make sure you're putting it into the pad and saving up to have just enough to get gunner, which is 125 on Anders, so that it starts queuing as soon as it can. And keep your hogs hidden when you go Reactor Third, because there's always a chance a Reactor Second player will push onto your side to hunt your gunnerless hogs when you're going Reactor Third. It's really risky for them to do that, and if you hid your hogs well and then you come fight them with the extra number you have, because they're going to have 4 or 3 to your 5, they should immediately lose if you get a good ram off. And I hopefully get some footage in the next few days of some good Warthog fights for me. I might tell my friend that I want to play UNSC. I'm kind of a Covenant main, but and maybe I'll do some Covenant guides, but the point is I want to teach a lot of you Halo Wars players a little bit of the higher level gameplay that the high level players aren't teaching you, because this game is kind of gatekept at the high level. There's very few players who know what to do, and if you don't watch a video, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. So hopefully, and just for funsies, my little pet project, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to play Halo Wars. A little funny aside here, you're going to notice my teammate put a Warthog down by my 3 Warthogs, and it's gonna make my Warthogs act all janky and actually get shot by the turrets. That's one of the reasons I don't like to send more than 3, is because your Warthogs kind of stop listening to you on the rebel bases if you have more than 3. So good rule of thumb is to clear those rebel bases without taking damage, try to keep the numbers to 3, and try to focus on it. Now in this video, I'm kind of like demonstrating, I'm pretending that there's a chieftain over there by that Warthog. And I'm trying to show you that in order to shoot at a chieftain, you're going to want to, or really any Covenant leader, you're going to want to try to use 1 Warthog at a time before you're ready to commit. Because you can post up your Warthogs next to your teammates' buildings, whoever's getting attacked. And when they go to Vortex you, the buildings actually absorb some of the damage and will help protect your Warthogs while you're just chipping away. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to be applying DPS before you're ready to actually take on the fight, but you don't want to be taking too much damage. So this is where I'm showing, like, see, at this point you would have saved up enough money to D-bomb, you'd be going in, you'd be ramming with a few of your hogs, not all of them, and you're just trying to DPS, and then you'd be going Fortress and upgrading your pads, because in a double covey game, a lot of times you'll be going single base Gauss. So the reason I was saving up money was to be able to afford the D-bomb and maybe even a cryo bomb. And then once you know that you don't need the money anymore, then you can start upgrading your pads. But the main thing is just to try to keep your Warthog numbers up when you're single basing. In general, Warthogs are not expendable. You cannot afford to lose Warthogs, especially if you're planning on committing to them, because the magic number of Warthogs is 30. The minute you get 30 Warthogs on the map, you pretty much win the game. There's not a lot anything can do to 30 Warthogs. Not even tanks. So, that's your goal of any UNSC game. A lot of players may not have told you that. Your goal isn't to do X, Y, and Z super complicated. To keep it simple, stupid, your goal is to get 30 Warthogs on the map. The minute you do that, you win the game. So keep your numbers alive above all else, and that's kind of what the greedy build is to show you. That's kind of what single base Gauss is to show you, is you're just playing major defense. Anyways, guys, I hope this helped you out, some of you Warthog players out there. I know a lot of this might not make sense, so feel free to ask me questions in the comments. Maybe I can make follow-up videos clarifying on certain wordings, techniques, what to do in X, Y, and Z situations. I want to upload more videos coming out. Now that I can make videos, it feels like a privilege. So like, I want to share my knowledge. I've been a player at this game for a long time. Doesn't make me the best, but I will say I've warthogged with the best of them and won. I've also lost to pretty bad players and been embarrassed. So take all these things with a grain of salt, but just understand that this is going to help you out in the early game with each character, just doing these build orders, because to me, they're the best foundations per character for helping you in the Warthog early game. Get out there, try out your Warthogs, keep them alive, keep your numbers, try to get to that magic number of 30. Have a great day. Please subscribe, like the video, all that stuff, you know, make this YouTube dream come true. And follow me at Twitch, Flower Tinted Glasses TV, or I think I'm just Flower Tinted Glasses, honestly. Flower Tinted Glasses on Twitch. Go find me. I like to stream almost every day. It's not always Halo Wars, but it'll sometimes be Halo Wars. And you guys can come ask me questions there and hang out and join my Discord and all that. So yeah, bye-bye. I hope this video wasn't too rambly. I know it is. It's my first time coming back to video making. It's going to be a little crude. Bear with me. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.